Hi everyone. Today on Centurionsmoney.com we have a new video for you. Why be rich? Will you be replaced by a machine or will you have to work as one, without retirement or rest? Do you want to work in front of a computer until your 70s or do you prefer to find a way to make that money work and you rest? If you want to have money without working, let's see this video. Many times, history is taught to us in school, although it may seem insignificant. If it were well applied, we could understand how we got to the current situation and thus understand the course and decide if it is a good idea to follow the same path that led us here, or it is a better idea to change the course of the boat because we are heading towards a storm. The first thing to understand is the way that the industrial and other revolutions come to us daily life. Like in any change, there are winners and losers in today's shifts or technological advances. But let's study the Industrial Revolution to understand the way of how some unknown people got rich and famous. I mean, when the Industrial Revolution started, some kept doing the same thing, but one day a tractor replaced the work of 10 men. This fact can generate as many opinions as receivers. Here is one of the main ones. Mankind could have dedicated itself to something nobler than harvesting. The one who created that machine never thought about the future of his partners. The engineer isn't the problem. The problem is in who bought the machine because they preferred it instead of his workers. The lack of unions, subsidies, and government caused damage to the peasantry. Regardless of which point of view you agree on, none of the above leads anywhere, as they teach nothing unless you plan to form a union against any technological advancement of humanity. The true way to progress and analyze this fact is based on the way you want to progress, perhaps as employee. I will train myself in the operation and repair of these machines. Self-employed, I will buy a machine and charge for each hour of work it does. Entrepreneur, I will create a company of agricultural machines as well as developing more machines. Investor, I will lend money to companies in exchange for a certain percentage, so I will earn with the companies even though I never worked for them. The people who thought like this were possibly those who won in the Industrial Revolution. And at Centurionsy, we focus on training this type of thinking, especially those of the business owner or investor group. Because they are the ones that enjoy the highest earnings, while the mechanic or self-employed depended on their time to make money. Entrepreneurs and investors should only focus on the first part of the business, then they could hire a manager to do their job, giving them time to study the direction of the world and get there before others do. That is, in the beginning, these machines were powered by steam, but if you had the time and ingenuity such as an entrepreneur or an investor, you would have realized the limitations of the system and you could have discovered that oil was a perfect solution, that at the moment was worth nothing, and for the next revolution you would be a millionaire, because you had a plan, and you didn't feel with fear of being replaced. Back in the modern world, many revolutions brought us to where we are today. A welfare state that is strongly inclined towards subsidies and social security. Because of the introduction of democracy, the majority of people voted for the politician who offered the most subsidies, unions, or pensions. It is incredible if you are a worker, that is, the government helped you pay your mortgage or transport, they also assured you that your company could not fire you overnight and that after several years you would receive enough money to retire and enjoy the rest of your years. However, the problem with these programs lies in the lack of social autonomy. That is, there would be no problem with subsidies if they were only used in an emergency and all members of the community without exception did so. However, in our supposed advanced society, more of the people who get government's help do it for laziness and don't for inability. Besides, most politicians have any economic knowledge. For example, when a company goes bankrupt, bureaucrats prefer to pay a subsidy to the new unemployed than to lower their spending and thus taxes so that companies can grow faster, and these are the ones that hire those employees. And mistake after mistake, the government is currently more bankrupt than ever. For example, in the United States, that country of intelligent economists and entrepreneurs, its politicians seem to have attended another school. Currently, about 80 million baby boomers will have to receive their full pension because they have contributed for a lifetime. However, the government does not have any of these funds. And the government will have to dive into debt to deliver on what was promised for about another 20 to 30 years. Thanks to the increased life expectancy. Many will wonder what happened to that money, But the truth is a bit simpler. Whereas in the past the dollar was backed by gold, today the dollar is just a currency. That is, while baby boomers knew that with a certain fixed amount of dollars they would get a fixed amount of gold, today the price of the dollar is in line with demand and supply. In other words, it's just printed paper, and central banks can print as much money as they have paper and ink, but not as much gold as they want. An image is better than 1,000 words, but every country has their own politics. So we invite you to Google your country's retirement policy. It will not take more than 15 minutes and you will know how much good or bad it actually is. Please give us to know your case. Also, you can watch this video about the lifestyle of an average worker and how not to fall into the trap. It is true that from your decisions right now you shape your future. But starting with $1 trillion debt to pay for the retirement of your parents and even grandparents is not the same as starting debt-free. Just imagine the reforms that your politicians will have to promote. Retirement age of over 80, 30% taxes on the salary for pension savings, privatization of public hospitals and only those with enough money will be able to go to the doctor. And this was just the beginning. With the tendency of countries to age and have more pensioners than employees, governments should push for more drastic measures, not to mention that more and more companies open their factories in Asia and at the end of the day there are more consumers than producers. This phenomenon is known as a trade deficit. However, politicians are not interested in losing their popularity and prefer to dig deeper through the fiscal deficit, higher government spending than tax revenue. If you want to get out of this pension problem and wait for the next revolution with open arms like our oil tankers have, we recommend that you face the pension absence. From there, you will understand that it is not best to save for a pension, especially when your interests are lower than inflation. Number of things you can buy with a certain number of tickets. We advise you to start investing. Because the government will no longer be able to take care of you paying your college or medical services. And if you are sure that you will have a well-paid job, the government will take that money with taxes. Nowadays times require that you be a millionaire. There is no more an option. The future of the middle class. In the 20th century, the United States and Europe could proudly boast of a growing and strong middle class that allowed them to democratize, while improving their lifestyle and economy. And the truth is that the middle class is very important in a society because it has enough money to buy good quality products that companies enlarge and thus generate new jobs. Furthermore, it is self-sufficient and does not depend on government subsidies, while paying the necessary taxes for the government to ensure well-being. And from a political point of view, it is not easy to deceive, thus avoiding corruption. But the dream is ending, and if you do not believe us, just look at those countries that have already passed the Industrial Revolution, and you will see how unemployment rises to the pace of automation or the contract of remote foreign personnel. You will realize that you need more than a specialization to escape poverty and reach wealth. By looking at the list of factors because you can be replaced, you can already get an idea of what awaits you. Professionals in developing countries charge less but have practically the same training thanks to globalization. Taxes in countries that are not welfare states are lower for companies. Machines have no unions. Machines do not demand. Machines have no salary. Machines do not contradict corporate decisions. Machines work every hour each day. Do you still think that the middle class, the university degree dependent one, will live on? Most likely, in the future, there will be only two classes, those with assets and those with nothing. At Centurion Z, we prefer that your concerns are not a plate of food, and we recommend that you educate yourself financially from now on. If you want to be rich today and in the future, we recommend that you educate yourself correctly as to have the necessary vision to find the next gold rush before the average person knows of its existence. And for this you need to think for yourself. That is, a machine can work harder and without rest, but working hard is not the same as working smart. Working smart means doing more with less effort, and in this way you can beat machines. Now is the time for you to ask yourself and be honest. Do you want to win everything or do you want to stop playing? What type of investor are you? Do you invest not to lose or to win? Those who don't invest, it will be 60 to 80% of the population that will have to distribute 1 to 5% of the global wealth. Invest not to lose, they diversify and prefer to give someone else their money to invest for them, this for fear of losing their money. They only earn 3 to 5% annually. And they will be 10-30% of the population, and 5 to 9% of the wealth will be distributed. Invest to win. This guy is tired of being part of the majority or average. They want to beat themselves, so they will stand out, have the freedom and power, and will be the winners. We can double or triple the amount of money annually. They will be 5% of the population and 90% of the wealth will be distributed. Ready to be part of this prominent minority?